Please be seated. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Harry Harding. I'm the Dean of the Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy, and it's my great pleasure to join my colleagues on the faculty and the staff in welcoming all of you, our graduates, their family members, and their friends, to the Batten School's 5th diploma ceremony, part of the 184th final exercises here at the University of Virginia. We're so pleased to gather together for this momentous occasion here at Alumni Hall. I can think of no more fitting place to pay tribute to the accomplishments of the class of 2013 as its members make the transition from being Batten students to Batten alumni. But they aren't alumni quite yet. So first, to give you a better sense of this remarkable group of women and men, I'd like to share with you a brief sampling of some of our students' characteristics and achievements. Quite significantly, this class, the class of 2013, is the first one that is a blend of two cohorts, students from both our accelerated and our postgraduate Master of Public Policy programs. Those who entered the program in their final year of undergraduate work at UVA, and those who entered after already having graduated from college. While we began our accelerated MPP program in 2007, today we recognize the graduation of our first cohort of postgraduate MPP students. We're especially happy to celebrate with you our 5th class of accelerated MPP students and our pioneering class of postgraduate MPP students. The students before us today represent the most international class up to date. At least 5 students have international roots, representing Asia, Africa, and Europe. And others, who are first-generation American citizens, have shared with us the perspectives of their family members who have immigrated from places like Africa, South America, and Europe. Many of our students have worked overseas during their Batten years, whether interning at the United Nations in Geneva, or researching business policy in Taipei, or doing development work in one of several countries in Africa. For 4 of our students, this is the first of 2 advanced degrees they will be earning at UVA. After earning their Masters in Public Policy, a number of our graduates today will be continuing their education as part of the very first cohort of MPP PhD students, ultimately earning their doctorates in education policy at the Curry School of Education. Another Batten student is earning her Master of Environmental Science this May, and still another will be continuing on to earn her Master of Public Health. By the conclusion of today's diploma ceremony, no doubt you will come quickly to realize that this was an exceptionally active class, including one student who, through her position as the editor-in-chief of the Virginia Policy Review Journal, launched the first ever nationwide conference of policy journal editors, that is, the journals, student journals from other schools of public policy, here in Charlottesville. Another equally motivated student drew upon her experiences with the Clinton Global Initiative to found a nonprofit consulting organization, the Formative Change Group, that recently won university-wide honors for its service to and engagement with the greater Charlottesville community. We say at Batten that you can lead from anywhere. And not surprisingly, many other students served as the leaders of university-wide student organizations, groups ranging from Shakespeare on the Lawn to the Student Athletic Advisory Council. The class also includes leaders on the University Judiciary Committee and the Honor Committee, the latter of which introduced major policy changes this year. We've benefited from our students' leadership in the classroom, too. Through their positions as beloved and engaged teaching assistants and graders, our upper-class MPP students guided our first-year and undergraduate students in balancing the demands of their challenging coursework. And speaking of balancing and demanding, last fall, one of our students and his wife welcomed the first Batten student baby. I know he's here today, and Issa, we look forward to welcoming you back someday as a member of the Batten School class of around 2035. Let's welcome Issa. There he is. Members of the class boast incredibly diverse interdisciplinary backgrounds, including 2 accomplished engineers. One is a certified ethical hacker, and the other was named a 2012 Inventor of the Year by Popular Science magazine for her unique puzzle cast design. Our students contributed thousands of hours of volunteer work in the community through the Batten Council's monthly service projects, and also through their leadership roles at Madison House, one of the country's largest student-run service organizations. There, Batten students served as board members, had program directors, and volunteers. A number of our students have found ways to turn public service into full-time professional positions, including those who came to Batten after previous positions as AmeriCorps and Peace Corps fellows and campaign and congressional staff members. 4 students now will be heading out after graduation to work as fellows for Teach for America, along with still others who will be serving through their positions with USAID and the World Bank. We say we don't privilege any one sector of employment, and this class proves that this is true. The class includes more than 10 of you who will be using your policy degrees in private sector consulting firms, where many of you will be working for public sector clients, and continuing what seems to be a very honorable Batten tradition. We once again had a UVA bus driver for at least the 3rd year in a row. The class of 2013 was exceptionally talented athletically and musically. Beyond our most active UVA intramural programming up to date, Batten students in the class include a former college lacrosse team captain, UVA's indoor long jump record holder, the founder of a university-wide CrossFit training organization, a youth soccer course, and club soccer player, and a famous, at least in our circles, actor who shared his singing talents in the movie Pitch Perfect and in an episode of The Office. Finally, lest you think that these students spent all of their time outside the classroom, in your programs you will see evidence of their dedication to the rigorous academic requirement of their MPP degrees. The program lists the names of their advanced policy projects, their master's theses, if you will, and also the real-world clients for whom these consulting projects were completed. Our school's founder, Frank Batten, once said that, and I quote, "The earlier in their careers that exceptional students begin to think of themselves as future public leaders who can promote a better society, the greater the likelihood they will become such leaders." It's abundantly clear that the class of 2013 took this message to heart, and I invite you to join me in congratulating them. And I know that I speak for all the members of the class of 2013 in joining them in expressing their gratitude to all the parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, significant others, friends, neighbors, without whom their success today would not be possible. And I know that I want to encourage them to join me in thanking all of you. Now, given the enormous talent in this class as a whole, it now gives me particular pleasure to introduce to you the 2 students whom the members of the class of 2013 chose as their final exercise speakers, each representing one of our 2 cohorts. In what will hopefully become a new tradition, each of the students has elected to speak on one of the academic cornerstones of their education at the Batten School. Malcolm, known by everybody as Doc McConnell, will be speaking on leadership, followed by Max West, who will share his thoughts on public policy. While Doc, an accomplished actor, has been described as one of the most articulate members in the class, he has, interestingly enough, devoted his tenure in Batten to advocating for those without a voice. As an American Sign Language interpreter and a member of the university-wide Diversity Council, Doc demonstrated his commitment to ensuring that all members of UVA are able to participate fully in its rich culture. He has worked for the past 2 summers in public service, most recently as a member of the Kane for Virginia U.S. Senate campaign staff in summer and fall 2012. Many members of the inaugural class of Batten undergraduate students also know Doc, who served as a teaching assistant for their first year of classes during the 2012-2013 school year, first for Professor Mark Kleiman and then for Professor Jerry Warburg. In the next few months, Doc will begin another chapter, using his considerable talents to work as a consultant for Deloitte in their federal practice in Washington, D.C. Doc's passion for service and for continual pursuit of academic excellence embodies the spirit of the accelerated cohort of this class of 2013, who selected him as their class speaker because they felt he could best give voice to their collective accomplishments and camaraderie. Doc, we're very proud of your accomplishments, and now we look forward to hearing your comments on leadership.
Thank you very much, Dean Harding, for that incredibly kind introduction. And thank you all so much for the opportunity to have a few minutes to talk to you about leadership today. I guess the first thing to say is to my classmates, my colleagues, and most importantly to my friends, congratulations. We made it through the econ exams. We made it through the Stata problem sets. We made it through the internships and the APP clients. We made it through the final exams and the final papers, and finally made it through our master's theses. So congratulations. Congratulations to you. I want to say congratulations in particular to the accelerated students for getting a Master of Public Policy degree in just 5 years, or for the true overachievers out there in just 4. And I wanted to say congratulations to the postgrads for being the very first class of postgrads to graduate with a master's degree from the Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy. So congratulations to you. And I want to dwell on that thought of leadership and public policy because I think back to when I was accepted to the program. I was excited, and I told my family about it, and I told them I was going to the Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy, and I got a 2-part response from almost everybody, which was, congratulations, we're happy for you. And what is a school of leadership? And in fact, there was a fair amount of discussion of that question when I was receiving Howard's letter and when I was returning it to Catherine, to Meg. What is a school of leadership, and is leadership even something that can be taught? I have to say, the prospect of standing before this incredible group of people today, this accomplished, intelligent, charismatic group of people today, and somehow imparting some wisdom about leadership is a fairly daunting task. Not because I think we don't know anything about leadership, I think we do. But I don't know what I'm supposed to say to you, the people who taught me what I know about leadership. What am I supposed to say? But I'll start with what I thought a leader was when I first came into the Batten School. I had some fairly naive ideas. They fit your common stereotype, the idea of the strong, tall, presidential CEO type with the business suit and the fast car who makes the hard decisions and everyone goes home happy and look up to, well, let's be honest, they're looking up to him probably in this stereotype of a leader. And while there are any number of things wrong with that image that I had of a leader to begin with, I'll let you break down exactly what they were, and now that we're supposed to be able to do that after Psych of Leadership and leading and managing diverse groups and leadership in the public arena. But the thing that surprised me the most about what I was wrong about, the thing that I didn't really expect to be wrong, was my vision of the leader as solitary, as alone or isolated somehow. Someone just sitting at the top of the food chain all by themselves. And if I really had to boil down my experience in learning about leadership to a single, most important lesson, what I would have to say is that it's not a solitary experience. It's not something that one undertakes alone. And in fact, the concept of leadership for an individual doesn't have much meaning, because the concept of leadership is only valuable insofar as there is a group surrounding that leader. And if I had been right about that image of a leader, that one individual on the top of the food chain, then what we would have seen after these 2 years together is one or two leaders emerge out of Batten, people who were looked up to, emulated, respected, people we liked and wanted to be like. And I'm so glad that I was wrong about that image of a leader, because what we got was so much better. We got health policy experts concerned that Americans at risk didn't have access to the kind of care that they needed and that they deserved. We have education policy experts who are dedicating their careers to making sure that every child has the opportunity to completely fulfill his or her potential. We have environmental policy and security policy and China policy and urban planning policy and electoral policy experts here at Batten. And every single one of those people is a leader in his or her field. We didn't get a leader or two from Batten. We got 2 classes full of them. And when it really comes down to it, leadership is about inspiring people to be better than they are. And that is the work that this class of graduates is doing every single day. And I mean that. I mean every single day, because I'm not just talking about those of you who are going into TFA and going into those classrooms where the kids need you so badly. I'm not just talking about those of you who are inspiring your coworkers in the future. I'm talking about those of you who inspired me when I walked into Garrett Hall, and those of you who inspire each other when they walk into Garrett Hall, and those of us that can get together after a hard day of classes and inspire each other to go back to class the next day, to go back to that project and continue to work harder. That is the kind of inspiration that is true leadership. And I promise you that all those econ exams and those APPs that we're so proud of ourselves for finishing, those were not individual efforts. Those were group efforts. Those were the trials that we undertook together. And when things got hard, when night came and went from Garrett Hall and you did not, those were the trials we defeated together. Those were the successes that we all had together as a class. So what is a school of leadership? It is a school whose foundation, whose very core, is made up of leaders practicing leadership every day. You, who have inspired us to realize that whatever your area of interest, we can do better than we're doing now. You, who have inspired us to be better than we are now, and you, who we have no doubt will be the people who will lead us in that direction and make us better. And can you teach leadership? Yes. And I thank you, my Batten classmates, my colleagues, and most of all my friends, for teaching me all about it. Congratulations again, and thank you very much.
Thanks very, very much, Doc, for those very inspiring and very wise words. Our second student speaker today is Max West. Max was born and raised in Washington, D.C. After graduating from Yale University in 2006 with a degree in history, Max spent 2 years in China, where he taught English as a Yale China teaching fellow. He then returned to Washington, where he spent 2.5 years working on Chinese human rights issues for an international human rights non-governmental organization. We were thrilled when he joined our first cohort of postgraduate students here at the Batten School. Max's primary interests are in the formulation and implementation of U.S. foreign policy, and he spent last summer in Washington, D.C. interning at the State Department's Bureau of East Asian and Pacific Affairs. While at the Batten School, Max kept busy with his coursework, producing first-rate term papers in many of his courses and holding his positions as a highly regarded teaching assistant for Professor Jerry Warburg and as a research assistant for Professor Christine Mahoney. When he was not engrossed in his academic work, Max's classmates could find him exploring Charlottesville's food and music scenes or hiking the Blue Ridge Mountains. In selecting Max as their speaker, his classmates described his academic prowess, his intellectual curiosity, and his unbridled but down-to-earth passion for all things policy-related. Max, thank you for sharing your talents with us, both throughout your tenure as a student and now as student speaker, offering your thoughts on public policy. Max.
Thank you, Dean Harding. Thank you, class of 2013. And thank you, Doc. Where are you, Doc? For a great speech and a tough act to follow, as always. Earlier this spring, David Brooks wrote a column about the state of American college kids that got passed around at the Batten School. And in it, he recounts a paper written by one of his students, Victoria Bueller, who calls our generation the cynic kids, and says, quote, "The harsh events of the past decade may have produced not a youth revolt, but a reversion to an empiricist mindset, a tendency to think in demoralized economic phrases like data analysis, opportunity costs, and replicability, and a tendency to dismiss other more ethical and idealistic vocabularies that seem fuzzy and therefore unreliable." She goes on, "We are deeply resistant to idealism. Rather, the cynic kids have embraced the policy revolution. They require hypotheses to be tested, substantiated, and then results replicated before they commit to any course of action." And it was a piece that rang true in a lot of ways, because I think it gets at two central problems with the way we as a society talk about public policy issues. One, public policy is seen as the domain of the wonks. It's a dry and academic pursuit incompatible with idealism. And two, it's divorced from the public. When we talk about the policy revolution, when we devise ever more complex methods of analyzing public policy issues, when we base simple programs on inscrutable quantitative formulas, we drive a wedge between the community working on public policy issues and the communities most affected by these issues. The less comprehensible policy debates become to the public, the less the public engages in these debates, and the less well reflected their interests are in the ultimate outcome. So yes, we need idealism, but we also need to break down these barriers between the public and public policy. Now, there may be other problems, but I believe this is the true challenge of public policy in the 21st century. It's a task made more difficult by dysfunctional government, by a media environment that's rapidly changing and in ways not necessarily for the better, and by an increasingly diverse array, sorry, Issa, it's true, and by an increasingly diverse array of public policy issues that demand our attention and discussion. And at the risk of repeating Doc's point, it's a challenge that calls out for leadership. So what does this mean for us as graduates of the Batten School? I'm not trying to suggest here that the world has no need for wonks, no need for rigorous research or principled debate. Far from it. The more brain power that we can all devote to these issues, the better the outcomes will be for all of us. Rather, what I'm trying to say is we've spent the past 2 years developing skills and refining interests that put us in a position to be leaders in our fields, but also threaten to distance us from the people whose lives will be most impacted by our work. That this will happen, of course, is not a foregone conclusion, and regardless of the paths we each take once we leave grounds, the opportunity remains to build bridges to our communities, however broadly we define them. Each of us has the potential to draw the public back into our work. For those immersed in the nuance of research and analysis, the challenge is to make your work accessible to the audiences who will be most affected by your conclusions. For those drawn to the world of policy advocacy, the challenge is to build coalitions that represent the public interests rather than special interests. And for those seeking to become policymakers, the challenge is to balance all competing demands without losing sight of the ultimate stakes of your decision. And having seen each of my classmates in action over the past 2 years, I have little doubt that each of us is up to the task. But this is something that will require real effort. I want to close with one last thought. I've lived for the past 2 years in a house owned by an ethicist. And early in my time here, we were having a discussion about policy analysis, and he cut me off and said, "Max, don't turn people into numbers." And it was an offhand comment, and I can't remember the context, but I think it's a useful shorthand for the charge we all face as we enter or return to the world of public policy. It's easy to get caught up in the data, or in the politics, or in the strategy of policy issues. But public policy is, more than anything, about people. And the more we can keep that simple fact in mind as we move on to the next step, the better off we'll all be. So thank you, and congratulations again.
Thank you very, very much, Max. Again, very thought-provoking and somewhat challenging, but very wise remarks once again. I'd now like to invite David Brenneman, Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, and Joe Rockwell, Senior Assistant Dean for Student and Career Services, to the podium to join me in the presentation of diplomas for our Master of Public Policy candidates.
Dean Harding, I am pleased to announce that 47 students have fulfilled the academic requirements for the degree Master of Public Policy. These students embody Mr. Batten's belief that the university's most important mission is to produce enlightened and ethical leaders who leave grounds prepared for public life.
Dean Harding, family members, and friends, I am pleased to present the University of Virginia's 2013 candidates for the degree of Master of Public Policy. Amanda Elizabeth Adams. Melinda Christine Adno. Kelly Elizabeth Anderson. Catherine Claire Babineau. Solomon Banjo. Madeline Julia Bergner. Alexander Bruce Boucher. Caitlin Hurling Brennan. Adelina Maria Bryant. Aaron Henry Chaffetz. Tara Rose Juto Clark. Kelly Elizabeth Connors. Nate Darty. Colleen Ann Marie Farrell. Patrick Riley Fitzsimmons. Eva Teresa Galdo. Amy George. Casey Gillette Mallard. Adair Hodge. Imran and Isa Khan. Katie Lai. Scott Anthony Latham. Michael Matthias. Doc McConnell. Amanda Grace O'Malley. Eleni Orphanides. Robert Patrick Pickmans. Shavase Levinson Puri. Melissa Ann Rickman. Annie Roram. Corey William Ryan. Melina Noel Shapa. Camille Joy Seward. Kelly Michael Snow. Catherine Foyer Stanley. Barakot Jatane Tessima. Evan Robert Vahoni. Ryan Nicholas Van Dyke. Matthew Stephen Welsh. Max William West. Ismail Yakubu Jima. Heyman Yoon. Allison Yut. Please join me one more time in recognizing this outstanding group of scholar leaders.
Thank you very much, Jill, and thank you very much, Dave. Like the four classes of students who preceded them, the members of the class of 2013 have made lasting institutional contributions to the Batten School. With representatives from both our accelerated and our postgraduate cohorts, this was by far the most engaged and active Batten Council we've ever witnessed. Beginning with the Batten in Action Global Photo Contest that documented the impact our students had last summer in their internships around the world. The winning photographs are on display in the basement of Garrett Hall, the lower level we call it, and I hope you'll have a chance to take a look at them. These student leaders went on to host more service projects than ever before, including the largest school-wide Batten Builds Day of Service and meaningful programming that included a university-wide Women in Policy Conference and related self-defense class. This women's conference is something students in our very first class wanted to make happen, and we're so proud that this year it finally became a reality. To the class of 2013, it's not an overstatement to say, quite simply, that you've raised the bar for all future classes in terms of your academic and co-curricular engagement. And I humbly thank you for the contributions that you've made to our community. Please join me in thanking them. Well, I obviously could go on and on about the achievements of this remarkable class. I think the retrospective slideshow that our students, and special thanks to Catherine Babineau, have pulled together will do an even better job illustrating how truly special this class really is. So let's take a look at who our students are and what they've achieved.
Tell me what happens.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to share with you and underscore something that Dave Brenneman whispered to me a minute or so ago. I'm sure all of you have heard about or read about MOOCs, massive open online courses. And these kinds of utilization of instructional technology, this kind of online learning, is going to make a great contribution to higher education. But MOOCs will never produce that kind of experience, build those kinds of relationships, or produce that kind of self-awareness. And we're very, very proud that here at the Batten School, thanks in particular to the generous contributions by the Batten family that made the establishment of the school possible, that we can produce that kind of face-to-face learning between students and faculty, between students and APP clients, and among the students themselves, that MOOCs can never replicate. Keeping up what is now a 5-year tradition, the students in this class have had a phenomenal rate of class giving. Beyond their year-end class graduation gift, through a record-setting charity auction last fall, and indeed other year-round fundraising, the Batten Council also made another sizable donation to the Stephanie Jean-Charles Fund, allowing our students' legacy of generosity to continue through future generations of Batten students who serve underrepresented groups and individuals. And on the subject of legacies, I now would like to invite Aaron Chaffetz to the podium for his presentation of the class. Thank you, Aaron, for your inspiring leadership this past year. Joining him will be Howard Heggie, Assistant Dean for Admissions and Strategic Initiatives. The class of 2013 is the first class that was recruited by Dean Heggie when he started here as our admissions director. So it's most appropriate that these same students would select him to send them off. He brought them in, now he's sending them off with the issuance of their class charge. Aaron and Howard.
Dean Heggie, on this scroll, you'll find the 47 names of the members of the Batten School MPP class of 2013. It is my privilege to represent my class, to ask you to formally add our names to the roster of the thousands of distinguished University of Virginia alumni who have preceded us. We pledge to remain loyal stewards of our program, to uphold the example of Batten alumni have set for us, and of course, to visit often.
I'll tell you, watching that video back, I'm going to miss this class a lot. I've been allotted 5 minutes to deliver the charge of the class, and I think it's to prevent just that. But before I start talking to the class, let me just say to the parents and the family and the friends that are here, how much we share in your pride in these graduates. As a person who did play a small role in bringing these folks together, I would tell you that the last 2 years of getting to work with them has been humbling, and it's been one of the most professionally rewarding experiences that I've had. To all of you, I am worried about the inadequacy of my own words to meet this moment in your professional life that's so rich in reflection and so full of hope and promise and probably a little apprehension too. But lucky for you and lucky for me, I get to rely on some really wonderful people. Like you, I'm blessed with some amazing mentors, people that I respect and that I admire, and that have always found a way to be there for me, to help me in transitions like you're going to go through. And I'll tell you, one of those mentors was the first African American appointed to be Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the state of Virginia. And this now former Chief Justice once told me that when he was 4 years old his grandfather used to take him down to the barber shop and make him recite poetry to the men that had gathered there. And I remember meeting with him when I was starting my own Batten journey. Right? It was just almost 3 years ago now. And I was here to recruit this class. And I was telling him about who I think I am and about the experiences that I feel like have shaped me. And I was telling him about the hope and the promise that I thought the Batten School held, and indeed that I thought this class would hold. And in that conversation in his office, he shared with me a poem. And I've had the opportunity to introduce others to this poem since then because it means a lot to me. But it really, really means a lot to me to share it with you on this occasion because I can't help but think about you when I think about this. All are architects of fate working in these walls of time, some with massive deeds and great, and some with ornaments of rhyme. Nothing useless is or low, each thing in its place is best. And what seems but idle show strengthens and supports the rest. For the structure that we raise, time is with materials filled. Our todays and our yesterdays are the blocks with which we build. Truly shape and fashion these. Leave no yawning gaps between. Think not because no man sees, such things will remain unseen. In the elder days of art, builders wrought with greatest care each minute and unseen part. For the gods see everywhere. Let us do our work as well, both the unseen and the seen. Make the house where gods may dwell beautiful, entire, and clean. Else our lives are incomplete, just standing in these walls of time, broken stairways where the feet stumble as they seek to climb. Build today, then, strong and sure, with a firm and ample base, and ascending and secure shall tomorrow find its place. Thus alone can we attain to those turrets where the eye sees the world as one vast plain and one boundless reach of sky. That poem's called The Builders by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Class of 2013, strengthen and support one another. Know that we are always here to strengthen and support you. Never forsake your values or your standards, even when your work is unseen, and maybe especially when your work is unseen. The communities that you will serve and the people that you will lead deserve nothing less. I'm so proud of my 2 years with you. Go and build well. Thank you.
Members of the class of 2013, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our diploma ceremony. Thank you all for joining us here today. After our recessional, I'd like to invite our new graduates to gather in front of Alumni Hall for an official class photograph, and then the graduates and I will join the rest of you in celebrating at a reception outside on the terrace. So ladies and gentlemen, graduates and friends, please stand for the recessional. I guess which way do I go?